Thank you for showing up tonight. This week's guest,
Derek Mears. I'm a pretty princess. I like to... No?
literally, just
Hi, Derek Mears. I'm Derek Mears. Sorry. I thought you just want to do like a sound check, not actually record the name.
No, it's one of those things where I have a thing where I pre-recorded, hi, welcome to the podcast. This week my guest is...
Oh, I can actually do that clearly if you'd like.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Derek Mears.
Yes, it's a good thing that we have that pre-recorded, since I explain it to every fucking guest that comes on the podcast. That's why we're doing that.
I love that I'm so comfortable with you. Like the show starts, you're just like hitting me. Like, dude, do it right. Stop screwing around. I'm like, Jesus Christ. Okay, Miles. Jesus.
Oh, all right. So the guy does not like saying his name. Note taken.
Absolutely not.
So
have we started already?
Yes, we've started already.
Holy crap.
Thanks for hanging out. Those of you who came to hear the podcast, watch the podcast, as it were. My guest this week is, of course, Derek Mears.
Hi.
Now, me and Derek had never met before until just about an hour and a half ago, and you showed up way too early for for this.
On time is early. On time. Wait, what is it?
On time is 15 minutes late.
Okay, got it. That's my phrase from now on.
So you showed up an hour and a half
Yes.
early. Traffic, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's tough out there.
All right.
How's the show going so far? Are we doing good?
I think it's going great so far.
Feels great.
It was funny. We were talking outside, and you said you came from a comedy sports background as far as your comedy or your improv goes.
Correct.
Right. And like I was saying outside, I always found that funny, just because in Chicago I was part of that time in history when it was like, oh, comedy sports.
Yeah. Ooh, stinky. Ooh.
We don't do that's short form. And I'm an artist. I do long form. I couldn't be less interested. Which of course is all horseshit, because it's all the same basic beast. Yeah, this is going great so far. I'm loving it. No, this is so funny. Me and you talked like fast and furious for like 45 minutes outside. I was like, wow, all that was great.
We should have recorded all of
Maybe
that.
I shouldn't talk to my guests before the show.
We can touch on things and whatever you want to do.
Oh yeah.
If it's a consolation, I do long form now. Do I get any points for that?
Yeah. Describe again that show you're doing. I think it just sounds like a really great idea.
Oh, thank you. No, I do this show in Los Angeles called The Resistance. And what we do, there's 6 guys on stage, and we improvise a complete narrative action-adventure show where we'll do genres like sci-fi, horror, western, whatever.
Right.
I have a full improvised keyboardist, a full sound effects guy doing lighting and cuts and whatnot. But there's no format to it. And what makes the show unique is we have a bunch of different stunt pads on stage, and I've had certain ones made kind of like giant, like Lego blocks. And so we'll build scenes out of them.
Right.
And do full improvised fights. We'll be each other's like vehicles. I've had like a bunch of different little toys, like carts and like ropes, and like, it's more of experimental theater than improv actually. But for me, it's the guys I get to perform with. It's so creatively gratifying because they're good human beings and talented human beings. And it's so fun, kind of like a giant doodle pad going, look, we don't know where this is going to go, but we're going to tell a full narrative and we'll see what happens. And it's been just lovely.
That just sounds like a great show. It just occurred to me, like when you said there's stunts in it, right? Because you basically do some physical stuff in the show that comes from your background, which was in stunts in part.
Yeah. I moved to LA back in like '96 to do acting and comedy. And I, no pun intended, fell into stunts because I'm a physical guy. I'll hold for the laughter.
Well played, sir.
So I started making a name doing both, doing acting and stunts. And it's been about 9 years now where I haven't done stunts officially on paper, though I still have the skill set. I'll get hired to do certain roles, whatever. And go, oh no, I'll know the coordinators. Like, oh no, that guy can fight. Like, let him do his thing. Like, which is beyond flattering.
Right.
But I'm lucky.
That makes me think of something that I've always said about when I started improv. You can tell me how you react to this. Like, one of the things I loved about improv when I started was that no matter what you knew or what you were good at, it all counted. Like if you were good at math, or if you were good at science or English or basketball or karate or dance or singing or anything, it comes to play on stage at one point or another.
Absolutely.
I don't know of anything else that's like that. On any given night, you could draw on anything that's made you who you are at some point.
That is deep, and I like that very, very much. I was getting quiet for the podcast, like thinking to myself, like, I like that. Yeah, it's such a wild thing with the with whatever you are. I try to tell younger improvisers, like, I'm by the way, no, I'm not God's gift to improv at all. Like, I love improv. It's been a huge part of my life. It's helped me through a lot of like different trials and tribulations.
How long have you been doing it?
Since I was 17, so 1990 or so. Oh my God!
Wait a minute, 1990?
Yeah,
since you were 17?
Yeah.
Then
Math is happening.
You and I started about the same time.
Really?
Well, I think I started taking classes at Second City in I started taking classes at Second City in 87.
Holy crap! But also, I took 8 years off at one point to really focus on the stunt side of stuff, and I play a lot. My face looks like I look like a murderer, so I play a lot of villains and bad guys throughout my career. So I took a little time off to do that, but then I came back, and it's literally it's so much fun. What I love about improv, I always talk about, like, it's compared to NASCAR, where it's like, I'm not really a NASCAR fan, but with improv, either you see someone race and the race wins and everyone's like, yay, everyone had a great time, that guy won, or there's a giant fireball and it blows up and everyone's like, yay, giant fireball, this is fantastic. So either way you win, the audience is happy.
Right. I was actually just doing some math in my head because what you said confused me. You said you've been doing it for about 17 years, starting in 1990.
Since I was 17.
Oh, okay.
Years old.
All right. So you've been doing it for 27 years.
Really?
Or 25
Minus 8, though, for 8 years off. So.
90 to 2015.
Oh, my
25
God.
years.
I don't, look, I make things up. I don't do math.
See, right there, my math prowess just became useful to me.
Oh, my God. You just totally, like, that was awesome. You, like sensei'd me. Like, you had, like, your bow staff. And
That's right.
I just taught you a lesson. You didn't even know it.
I learned that skill in 2nd grade.
So far, best podcast ever.
It's funny you were saying, I look like a murderer. And it's funny because I just met you, and in no way to me do you seem like that at all.
Thank you so much. That makes me very happy.
Well, I'm sure it's just, I'm sure you can look like that. I'm sure that's your acting. But it's funny because I look at you and you seem like a really nice guy. Like, I would never think, this guy's going to be trouble. It's like, no, this guy's ridiculously nice. Yeah, and for those of you listening, this guy is ridiculously nice. He's one of those guys.
Yeah, but aren't serial killers the same way, though? Like, they can actually, like, they're super charming and super nice, and then they murder you hard style.
Wasn't that like just Bundy?
It's been a great podcast, guys. Thank you for coming out. I'm going to take off.
I think the rest were kind of just all-out pricks.
All right, maybe so.
I mean, I actually don't know. I just remember he was the one that they were definitely like, oh, he's charmer and ladies' man, and everyone was attracted to him, and he was a good-looking, nice guy.
Huh. I'm going to check my facts, and I'm going to go to the Wikipedia after this and
all
make
right.
sure exactly what's going on, because that's the truth. No.
I'm just saying, because Dahmer looks like a bag of shit from the minute you look at him. I'm like, I don't trust that fucking guy.
That would be a great dating show where you just go through all the serial killers. Like, who would you do? Like, who do you think's attractive? Like,
Bundy. Only Bundy. I would date Bundy.
I'm more of a Richard Ramirez type guy. Like silent, local. One of the guys.
Oh, that makes me think of the myth stuff we were talking about outside. So we both took a workshop here in Los Angeles called the Sam Christensen Studio at the Sam Christensen Studio. I think it's called the Myth Workshop.
Yeah, the image design or the myth.
Right. It just really is a fascinating thing where basically the gist of it, and man, am I not doing it justice because it gets really involved. But the idea is that when you walk into a room, how does that room perceive you before they know you, before you speak, before they do anything else? Just what's the first impression that room has of you? And you figure that out in this workshop as far as a way to work that.
Correct.
And you and I both have myths as a result. Like at the end of the workshop, you're given your myth, or what is likely your myth, a way that you are perceived. And it's funny, I forgot your myth. You told it to me outside.
Tribe is mine.
Tribe.
Where it's like I have a sense where, like, if I like you and you're like a good person, and I take you kind of like my own pack, like, oh, I'm with you. Like what do you need? Like, I'll go to war for you. Like, and so I have this kind of group of friends that I protect and like make sure. Sometimes like you're in charge, sometimes you're not, but it's that burden back and forth. So it's a pro and con in a sense. But I have that loyalty to friends and family.
It's funny. On a side note, that reminds me that like Del Close always saw the improv community as a tribe. And he saw himself as the messenger or the mojo man.
Oh, I love that.
right?
Like the shaman in a sense.
Yeah, the shaman. And you saw Sharna Halpern, or his partner in Chicago, as the high priestess.
Yeah.
And he called me his war chief.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which is similar to what I think, because the way you're describing yourself, like you're the guy who would go to war, who would go to battle, who would stand up for the other person. My myth was actually fairness.
Oh, no kidding.
So, which is funny because actually in that workshop, cause I didn't see it coming. I'm like, I'm not going to get emotional about this shit. Because he said some people get emotional about this. I'm like, fuck that, not me, not me, man. You can't surprise me. And then when it came around to, and I saw it when I started to see what it was going to be, I'm like, holy shit, it's going to be that. It's going to be fairness. And I'm like, that's my father. That's my father's myth.
Oh, wow.
I'm sure it is. And I was like, I got teary eyed. And I was like, oh, Jesus. So I'm fair. Like, and you're also upset because you know your myth is also your weakness.
Absolutely. So
it's fairness, but for me, fairness also means you get screwed over.
Yeah.
Right? It's fairness to a fault. What's the weakness on tribe?
The tribe is that oil over loyalty in a sense, where like you become vulnerable to if someone like gives me their word on something and going, okay, cool, I'm like on that's your word, or similar to like I was getting personal. I was like recently divorced or whatnot, and when that trust was broken, I have that like. People were going, oh, so you're not going to get married again? Like that's been really vulnerable for you. It's got to be hard for what went down. I'm like, no, you don't understand, because like you keep that vulnerability open because it's not about me. It's about what their choices were. So it's going to affect them. So that's my mindset for it. So, but it makes you vulnerable because you want to help people, and like you have to. You don't know if they're a wild animal or not. You stick your hand out, and you could get bit, you could not.
Right.
And so if they do bite, that's on them, in my opinion, and not my own. So it's not going to stop me from putting my hand out.
Right. I actually, the more I think about it, I think we have very similar myths. Because fairness is a very similar sort of. I think if you can be fair with someone. You give someone an honest shake, then you give them a break, and then you say I'll give them another break, right? And now all of a sudden it's like now you're probably not helping him or you, because because that guy's being a dick now, and he needs to. The fairest thing you can do is to tell him to go fuck himself. But that's hard to do because it's easier to be on the nice.
Oh, absolutely, because you're not getting in the dirt and digging with people and like figuring out what the bottom root of the problem is, or the subtext that they're dealing with. So it's much more difficult to be fair, and because being nice is easy because you can just brush it off and continue. So you're getting more involved, in my opinion.
Right. All right. I'm gonna go back to you. You strike me as a ridiculously nice person,
right.
which sounds like a
bad sign.
Well,
I can break things.
It's just funny. It sounds like an insult because I put ridiculously in front of it. But you're ridiculous. You and your niceness. But I found like some of the nicer people that I've known have also been in a place when they weren't nice people. They were like, because I know I'm not going to name these names at this point, but. I mean, there was a point when these people just weren't fucking nice. I mean, they were the complete opposite. And then somehow in their life, they came to a place where the change came, and then they became literally the nicest people.
Oh wow! So you're saying that that there was a certain experience in their life that was the catalyst to make that change? Was it a lesson learned, or
I actually don't know. I just know that. I know there are guys I know who there was a point in their life when they were just the worst people, right? And now they're the best people. And I wasn't there for the turnover, because I think some people are just awful and they continue to be awful. But I was just wondering, for you, because I mean, you strike me as so nice that I'm suspicious that you were a dick at some point.
No, honestly, I haven't really, from what my mom says, I haven't really changed that much since I was a kid. I'm pretty much the same guy, but I also do believe that I always had that Swayze Roadhouse theory, where it's always be nice until it's time not to be nice. Where we have all of us as human beings have that emotional keyboard in front of us, and like right now, each different key is a different emotion. And right now, I'm happy and like we're screwing around and like having fun, everything's great. But in all of us, no matter how nice you are, like if I were to like walk up with a stranger and I kicked your kid in the head, or I threw I threw your wife on the ground, you would automatically switch and play that key of like, I'm going to murder you. or I'm going to protect my wife. So you have that side. So there's that ebb and flow. There's times to play. The more that you know your own personal instrument, the more you know yourself, the more the emotions and different chords and different patterns you can play, and knowing yourself. That's totally deep, man.
Well, it looks like I taught you something else. Glad you remember all that.
What am I paying for this, by the way, for this podcast? Because this is fantastic.
I was trying to do Sam Elliott from Roadhouse.
Absolutely, which is fantastic.
Like, hold on there, mijo.
Holy shit, I love you to death. Keep going.
That lesson you just said.
That might be the best Sam Elliott I've heard. I mean, I know Jeff Davis from Whose Line does a buddy of mine who does a really good Sam Elliott, but I think that trumps it. And that's really good. Suck it, Davis.
Yeah, suck it, Davis.
Next question.
Because actually, I do some voiceover, and Sam is one of my signatures. In that, and it was funny. I was doing a voiceover for something. I was like, I can't remember what it was, but they asked for a Sam Elliott voice, so I went in and I gave him that voice, and I had the gig until Sam Elliott decided he wanted to do it.
Oh man!
And I was just kind of like, oh no, fuck him. He can't do him anymore, man.
That is fun. That is. So you got beat out by Sam Elliott. That's a pretty good.
But to me, at the same time, it wasn't like a national gig. It was some gig that would have made me a couple grand. I'm like, are you scratching, Sam? Do you need a little help?
It's a different time, man. Of acting, it's like the Wild West right now. Like people are like McConaughey's doing car commercials, and when back in the day, it was like, no, I'm an actor. I would never do. Now it's just free game for whoever.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, because there's that thing like, how much money do you need? You know.
Yeah.
I was thinking, you and I were talking before the show, and you said something, and it was about basically being able to switch on and off as far as in this business, which I don't do. I don't do that well at all. But talk about that again real quick, because that was really interesting.
I'm trying to remember the point where it's making so switching on and off. Like, you mean the two different sides of yourself, the business side?
Yeah, there's the
analogy.
There's the artist, and then there's the person who's basically selling themselves.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. What I was saying outside was and I tell some of the younger actors, like I'm so lucky to work in general, but B, I would tell them like there's who you are A and there's who you are B. Both have the same name and the same face and whatnot, but who you are A is a real person. You have your friends, your family, you watch TV in your underwear, you mow your lawn, you're a real person. But then there's who you are as B, like I said, has the same face, the same name, but that's a product. And so when the time comes, like the people that you're dealing with TV and film, as artists and actors and improvisers, comedians, we're taught creativity, and creativity is in our bones. What we're never really taught is the business side of things. And so when you meet with business people, you have to be able to sell know what your product is. And that's why it ties into the Sam's class. You know exactly what you're selling. Right. And B, not ever take it personal. So if you get like a review that's negative about a performance you've done, or a review that's even positive, to realize that that's not real. And so when people meet you like in person, going like for myself, like, oh my God, like you played these horrible tough guy characters, whatever. I saw you on this TV show or that. And like, oh, but you're nice. You're totally different. I go, yeah, because you know what I'm putting out there. You know the product. You don't know me. And so you separate the two so you don't go crazy. And also you don't get a giant ego. Like I've worked with certain actors who are like, do you know who hi, I'm so-and-so. Do you know who I am? I don't give. Obviously,
who the fuck would
don't
say, "Do you know who I am?"
It's fucking gross.
It's like you either know who's. I mean, if they know who you are, they know it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Do you know who I am?
Yeah, and it's just it's the weirdest thing. I don't buy into that at all. Like my life philosophy is, we all have skills in different areas. No one's better than anybody else. Just do what you love and try to move forward. I've had talks with like younger actors on set where I've seen them like say something to the caterer or whatever. I'm like, hey man, like come here real quick. Can you cook food for 260 people? No. Well, he doesn't act. So you show him respect for that's his art. Your art is, playing pretend like a professional child for a living. Like That's what he does. So no one's better than anybody else. I don't care if you're the main producer all the way down, to the PA. You treat everybody with respect until they give you a reason not to.
Right. I was trying a couple of thoughts in my head. Like one, I was going to ask you, like, if you're walking across the street,
mm-hmm.
and there's a car coming that needs to catch a light,
mm-hmm.
and you're slightly in its way.
Mm-hmm.
Do you pick up your pace?
Absolutely.
That's because you're a wonderful human being. That's one of the ways I separate the assholes of the world from just every day when I'm driving. If someone's taking if someone knows they crossed late, they're walking across late on a green, and sometimes they even slow the fuck down.
Oh yeah, seen that.
I'm just like, because hey, I'm walking here, man. Deal with it. I'm just like, all right, you're a dick. And at the same time, though, if I see someone like they hustle a little bit, then I'm like, the world's gonna be okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because there are guys like that in the world who pick up their fucking pace when they're crossing the street. That's a stupid little thing that just ran through my head. I was also thinking how you basically ruined Friday the 13th for me.
Sorry.
No, just because if you're Jason,
Yeah.
every time I see Jason pop up, I'm just like, oh, that's just Derek.
That's exactly, yeah. That's the truth. I've had a lot
Those
of
people don't
fans who said
realize that that's the nicest guy in the fucking world.
For those of you who are tuning into the podcast, I was very lucky to play Jason Voorhees for the newest Friday the 13th. So, like it says, humor more than murder.
That's ridiculous. It's like I think that's so cool. The fact that you were a predator.
Yeah, man, I'm so lucky. I played sounds when people are laughing. It sounds horrible out of context. You were a predator, but no, I played the classic Predator for the most recent Predator movie, Predators. I was actually a fun little anecdote. I was actually in an airport once, and I'm standing there having my headset on, which is not actually on, backpack, waiting to get on the plane. There's a couple to my left of me, and there's a woman in between the two of us. And so the couple looks over and the lady goes, "Oh my God, so-and-so, that guy's a predator." The woman in between us just slowly gives me this death look, slowly turns, just absolute ice picks from her, and just like I'm the biggest piece of trash. And she doesn't know that my earphones are not actually on. And of course, I make it 10 times worse by trying to over-explain. I'm like, oh no! What they were trying to say is I'm like space alien predator, like I'm in the movie, not like register in your neighborhood predator, because I'm not in the kids. No, and they're just making it worse. I'm have a great day, and just slowly 6'5", 235, try to get as small as they possibly could, like this, like a snail trail leaving. Going, no, I don't like children. I don't.
But you could have just turned at the other way and just turned to her and gave her that look to like
just own it.
Yeah.
Just like,
how you doing?
What's your name? You smell nice. What the fuck? That guy's nuts.
That would be great.
Oh my God. But yeah, life was fun.
All right. I was actually going to see if we had any questions here from the people. Any questions out there at all? Yeah.
Stop fighting for the questions.
You said you took 8 years off.
Yes.
What was your experience coming back to it?
The question is, he took 8 years off, and what was your experience coming back?
When I came back, it's one of those. I get this improv thing also. I've been doing it for so long. I'm sure we all do. Like when you sit in the audience and you're not in the show and you're watching your friends on stage or even the show that you're in, you're like, oh my God, like how are they doing that? Like that's magic. Like I would never think of that. But once you're on stage, it's a different story. So coming back into taking 8 years off, I was just like, what do? I don't want to. I was very hospitable, going, I don't want to step on anybody's toes. Like, what am I? I'll go and support. So it took me a little bit to kind of get that confidence back up and running because I was away for so long. But luckily it's kind of all kicked back in. I've gotten to the point I don't care, and it's just playtime.
Right. It's funny. I mean, I don't think I've ever taken any significant time off ever from this. Even when I've traveled with a show or something, I'd always wind up finding some place where they had improv, and I'd still be doing it. But there was always the thinking that sometimes, I think for some players, it probably is a good thing to take time off.
Oh, absolutely.
Just basically because your life is what you bring to the stage. And sometimes I do worry about that just because I think so much about improv is like, am I bringing anything else to the stage? Like, what's my life? What do I know?
Yeah.
Which is why I watch a lot of TV.
Well, that's the thing. In general, I tell people, even as actors and improvisers, going, whatever your experience is, like they ask, like I'll get it. Like, what do I do? Like, do you have any words of wisdom? I mean, man, have the biggest life experience possible, because that's your paints for you to paint your pictures with. Like, the more experience that you have, even some people even, I know it sounds bad, like even the negative experiences, like even like negative emotions, like going through breakups or having loss in the family, like someone passed away. Those are all, depending on how you look at it. Yes, it is technically a negative emotion, but you still get to feel that emotion. That emotion is valid, and I would much rather be able to feel emotion in general than have no emotions at all. So when you deal with something, even if it's a sad thing, if you look at the positive side, going like, man, this is like enriching me. I'm getting a much deeper level of who I am, and then when I perform, now have deeper levels that I can share and affect people with. Because when people relate to the stories that we're telling, funny or serious, you connect. We're all human beings. We're all monkeys. We're a pack. We're a tribe, and so you can relate to what we all.
I ain't no monkey. You might be a monkey.
Might be a little bit of a monkey. I love this.
All right.
But yeah, so I know you asked one question, then I answered three in between.
I kind of brought up. Yeah. Is there anything else out there? Yeah.
Hey, so when you got divorced, did you find yourself being more hyper aware of like sensitive to emotions and stuff like that?
Oh, absolutely. While
The question was,
sorry.
when you got divorced, did you find yourself being more hyper aware or sensitive to emotions?
absolutely, I was during the rocky time before the marriage actually ended. I was doing a lot of research on emotional literacy. In the past, a lot of I wish I would have learned it younger in my life. A lot of times, as an adult male or a male in general, I've noticed trends where, going back to the keyboard analogy, where we have like happiness is one key. There's anger and confusion in the middle key, and then there's sadness. But there's so many more keys. But we're taught as men to go like, no, like you're like John Wayne, like you don't feel emotion, you keep it down. This is how a man acts, and this is how you embrace your masculinity. And I've learned through different books and just different exploration, about and some of the improv techniques of it, just like deeper listening and whatnot for a relationship. I learned that as a grown adult, that I can express to you that you've hurt my feelings clearly in a conversation. I can even cry about it, but also I could still knock you out in the same sentence if I had to. So it doesn't make you any less of a man to do that. Also, it's not good. Also, I don't advocate knocking people out. It's not a good thing. Never fight if you don't have to, unless someone's threatening your life. But to embrace that, and I learned my vulnerability through that tough period in my life. When I was more vulnerable with the different people in my life, like the friend groups, and go like, hey, like before, when I go through something tough, I'm like, no, I don't need any help. I don't want to put my burden on anybody else. This is my thing. And then when I was going through this tragedy at what I thought was the time, which in hindsight now, the universe basically saved me because I was not in a healthy relationship. That the point is that I could be the more vulnerable that I was, the friends that are in that friend group or people that I opened up to and went, look, man, like laying down in front of them going like, here's the sword. Like if you want to stab me, you could do it right now and I can't fight back. But the compassion that generated and the vulnerability within them, I've had so many friends go like, when I was being vulnerable and telling them exactly what was going on without, putting a spin on it at all. And them going, oh, well, nobody knows this, but like my wife, did this to me, or my husband cheated on me on this, and they opened up with a lot of people don't know about with me, and so it brought our connection and our relationship to a deeper level. And I think I started thinking about in general, like as a society, if we were to do that and be more open, everyone's so afraid and fearful about getting that negativity or being taken advantage of or being hurt by how they feel or what they say, that if we did that, we would all be so much closer together. And that's what I love about improv in general, is the basic theory, which sounds so cliche, of the yes and, when you accept people around you, and even for the choices on stage. On a slight tangent, when I was younger, I had friends who were super talented, and like one friend could sing really well, one person was fantastic at characters, and I wanted to be them so much, going, oh, I'm not them, I'm not them. But then as I got older doing improv, I went, oh, I'm me. Nobody else is like me. Like whatever I do, like we talked about bringing your own experiences, whatever makes me, like step on that gas pedal, because I don't want to be like them. I have my own strengths and weaknesses.
Well, that's one of those insane things we do as people, is like, I want to be that person. And it's like, well, that's something you will never, ever be.
You're not.
Be you, because you is already enough, right?
Absolutely.
Was there one more there in the back. Let's take one more.
I guess maybe kind of coming off of what you just said, and also what you were saying before about being an A person and a B person. Do you find that you slip into a kind of a stage personality when you on stage, like?
Depending on the show, sometimes yes. Like for the Resistance show, for example, I'll be more like the opening of the show. I'll be more stern, where you walk out in the confident, you plant your feet, and you're not moving around as much, and I'm more neutral with my face because the way that I look, like Miles and I talked about outside. Being that I'm a bigger guy and I can scare people, I've adopted this in some social situations where my voice will get higher, and I'll get more animated. I'm like, "Hey guys, what's going on? Everything is great," and I'll that way I don't scare people. So I'm almost, I guess, through learning the subtext I'm sending out are appeasement signals, going like, "Oh no, Chewbacca's on our team. Like I'm not a threat to you." To make, 'cause I worry about people and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. So like stage personas. Like I said, for the Resistance show, when I plant there and I have that neutral thing, I think it's very important in any show that you do that you have that opening moment where, similar to writing, where you have that save the cat moment. From Sid Snyder teaching. So I will do that, but then something will happen in the opening of the show before the show actually starts, where it'll be kind of like, like we're not serious, we're playing, and it gets the audience on your side, because like, you have that vulnerability going like, look, I don't know what's going to happen in the show. Like, I'm not better than anybody else in the audience. My purpose here is to clearly communicate to you that I'm here to have a good time, and I want you guys to have the best time possible. And it's not just up to us, it's up to all of us to play together. And if you want to play at any time, like sometimes we'll go out in the audience and do scenes out in the audience, or grab people and pull them up in the long form narrative, and going like, no, I'm with you. Like, we don't know what's happening. Like, let's play together. Like, it's okay. And when you give that permission for people to play, and like, you're not judging them, even with your teammates and whatnot. I've run up with different teams. People are on your side, and they're more open and free to perform the way that they want to perform. If someone is like, feels any pressure and judged at all, everybody has their maximum performance level. And if somebody feels judged, even if they're not on the same page with everybody else, their performance level is even going to be lower than what their maximum is. So if everyone feels good about themselves and they don't feel like, oh, we're all artists, we're all going to grab a paint brush and paint this thing we think we all see together, it could be the best thing in the world, it could be the worst thing. It liberates everybody to just be themselves.
Yeah,
man, I went on a tangent there.
That is great stuff.
Holy crap.
Actually, real quick, if I could you repeat that question for me again?
Was whether you have kind of like a stage persona or spirit that you take on when you walk on stage.
Oh, okay.
Start a show.
So the question was, do you have a stage persona or spirit that you take on when you walk on the stage? I'm saying we can probably cut that in before,
yeah, I'll
before all that later
on.
I forgot to repeat it, so I'm sure the mics aren't picking up the audience. That was great. I'm happy to end on that, and let's do a set.
Yeah, let's play.